My name is Wright Steenson, and I'm here to tell you that I'm dedicating this to Senator Ted Stevens, the late senator. It really is a series of tubes. He just had the century wrong. What kind of tubes? Pneumatic tubes. And in fact, pneumatic tubes, in this particular picture, this is a picture of the tubes in Paris. Pneumatic tubes were on 4 continents in every single major city that had major finance and a lot of traffic. Why? Because telegraphy was too successful in the late 19th century. Here's the situation. Here you have a crowded Paris street. Paris also had really great boulevards, and they had fantastic sewers. The combination of boulevards and sewers meant for good conduits, and therefore it was possible to line the sewers, as we just saw with tubes. Here we see some of the success of the telegraph. You see also some of the problem. You see all the labor that would be required to send a message from point A to point B. You also kind of see this surveillant guy in the background. He's going to show up again. But what pneumatic tubes meant was that you could get a message across the city. It's effectively a last mile problem, 19th century style. In Paris, it started with a polygon of 6 or 7 stations, and it grew to 450 kilometers of pneumatic tubes running under the streets. By 1945, processing 12 million pneumatic tube missives a year. It was called attraper un bleu. To catch a blue was what would happen when you'd receive a pneumatic tube message. They used to be blue, stopped being blue around 90 or so. In the steam age, massive, massive installations would create the compressed and rarefied air. This is in the Hôtel des Postes in Paris, built 1880, and you see, again, lots of labor. These would run day and night and produce the air that would be stored here in these massive tanks, 19 meters long, 1.5 times as high as the guy standing next to it. And these would pump day and night, moving the pneumatic tube receptacles through the city between all of the offices. Here are some of the receptacles. This is old style, but check out these ones here on the end, physical packet switching. You could put in an address and the tube receptacles would route themselves. But I'm going to talk first about the steam age stuff. They weren't quite that far. Here's how it worked. You would crank open the pneumatic tube thing, you'd pull back, and you'd put in a bunch of pneumatic tube receptacles, crank it shut, ring a bell, off it went, 50 kilometers an hour to the next stop, 2 minutes away. You could get from one end of the city to another in, I guess, 2 hours. This is the biggest pneumatic tube installation in Paris. This is at the Stock Exchange. Tubes went where capital went, where money went. You see 9 people here. You see the Where's Waldo guy, and you see a child laborer as well. The best part is when the tubes got stuck, or when a receptacle got stuck, they'd fire a pistol into the pneumatic tube, and they would measure the sound waves and find it within 2 meters, and because they could get to it. In Berlin, they just poured lots of wine down when they get frozen in the tubes and get stuck. This is an amazing chart that I'm not even going to have time to talk about, but this is the plan, section, and elevation of pneumatic tubes running under the Central Paris Post Office. 1903, again, it's kind of a part of the public zeitgeist. This woman is licking her lips, sending off a message to her lover through the tubes. You see the same kinds of things that we saw here. But that's only part of the story. In this sense, I was telling you about pneumatic tubes and telegraphy. In the United States, pneumatic tubes started in 1890, and they delivered first-class post. So there was a pneumatic tube going over the Brooklyn Bridge until 1953. Pneumatic tubes in Chicago and Philadelphia. But they're kind of the size of Shriner cars, you know? These big things, and they were dealing with first-class post. They got put out of business by the truck, which incidentally was invented in 1912, and it was the truck lobby that lobbied to shut down the pneumatic tubes. But what happened once you reduced the size of the installation, remember we had the steam, with the invention of the GISO apparatus in 1907, pneumatic tubes became electrical, and they went inside, and they probably become like the things you think of from the banks of your childhood or the movie Brazil. What it brought to people here is desktop computing, in a sense, or you see people, rather than being deep in the dark bowels of a post office, you see beautiful, well-lit places, like with this Lamson pneumatic tubes catalog from 1920. It also meant you could do work in all kinds of places. I did say that it's possible to do work in a light place. I don't know why all those people are kind of hiding in a dark thing. And 136,000 pneumatic tube messages a day sent through Sears Roebuck in Chicago. And finally, it really is a series of tubes. When I did the research for this, New York Public Library, I wrote down the information. I sent it off by pneumatic tubes. So Senator Ted Stevens was right. Thank you.